I think on the topic of mental health, men's mental health, I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say misplaced, I don't want to say aggression, but misplaced aggression towards women
Yes, for sure.
with that. And I think it's because people feel like, oh, well, some people are like, oh, women expect this and that and this and that. And it's, part of this comes from women expecting this from men.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, on one side, realistically, that's really comes from us. And not really us, but people before us. It's really our fault then for giving them a not very solid example of what a man is supposed to be.
Sure.
And so their ideas of women are supposed to be came from weak men, basically.
Right.
In general. And so then, it's kind of this sort of circle, and then the aggression gets
Define a
misplaced.
weak man, because some people might, literally because of what you're talking about, have a misunderstood
Well, I
idea of
think
what a weak man is.
it's very broad spectrum.
Mhm.
In general, I mean, I think a weak man is one, very emotional,
Mhm.
not in control of his emotions. I think not able to fulfill his role properly as a teacher, as a guide. The kind of man who would leave his family specifically.
Sure.
You have your basic weak man is like the kind of man who would hit a woman but as realistically, that doesn't come from delight in striking women, but generally a lack of control of their emotions.
If I could define a weak man in a short sentence, it would be a man who knows the right thing to do and doesn't do it.
I like that.
That's a great point.
It's just that simple sometimes. It's like, it's not like any of us have this perfect set of cards that we start out with,
Sure.
but that is true courage. It's just not being fearless. Being fearless is stupid.
Right.
If you don't have any fear, you're dumb. That you're not going to last very long. But how you control that fear, that's the more
Fear
important thing.
being an emotion.
Fear.
And so
being
kind of
an
exactly
emotion,
what I was saying there, which is the emotionality, which is because people misunderstand what it means to be emotional.
Right.
People think emotional means like, oh, I'm crying.
Well,
all
they
these
automatically
movies
assume
right.
sadness.
You can
and
be
things like
emotional and be an incredibly intellectual person.
Yes.
You can be emotional and be a very quiet person. People think emotional people are these loud, openly. You can be very quiet and be extremely emotional and be in like, I know people who are super quiet. And they're emotional people sitting there going like, I bet y'all are thinking this about me and probably saying this about me.
The truth is,
but then when they're around you, they're just like
emotional.
very quiet, and people mistake that outward quietness as being strong. So there's people who will mistake someone who's very quiet and go, he's not very emotional. He's a very stoic sort of person.
The truth is, everybody's emotional. People just
Right.
manage their emotions.
See,
differently.
people mistake being emotional with the expression of being emotional. Emotional people don't always have to express it. Everyone is emotional, but I mean, when we speak of, and I guess the better would be given to their emotions more than the other things. And that's exactly what that is there, because it generally comes from emotions.
Right.
Where a man knows the right thing to do, but he's afraid.
Yeah.
And so he gives into his emotions rather than his logical, because
That's what I wanted to get at.
We're supposed to be logical creatures. We're supposed to be logical reasoning creatures, but not even, sometimes it isn't. I mean, it's generally, I guess it really fit into logic, but sometimes there's very often situations where it's just, this was what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there is no, like, it can be simple, very basic logic. This is just what needs to be done, and it's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And a person, a weak man will generally run away from that. And that's a similar, kind of example I said before you said that, which is men who would leave, their children, because that's a difficult job, and it's a difficult thing ahead of you, and it is what you have to do. It is your responsibility. Yeah. It's what needs to be done.
And it's also ties in with the what you're talking about with the violence in women, right? So women and men tend to be very different, and sometimes it can be challenging for a man to try to deal with women's issues and the way their perspective, the way they see things, and instead of being empathetic or trying to, they end up getting frustrated because it's just like, that's too much work. You just shut up and do that, and it becomes a violent type situation because they're frustrated because they don't. It is an insecurity, because they don't know how to deal with things,
Right.
but there's a wide variety of reasons for the violence,
right. But that's generally what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Not knowing how to deal with these things. And I think that's why it's so important, because if you don't train men to deal with their emotions, you inherently raise weak men.
Right.
Right. Because like you said, everyone's emotional. Listen, guys, we're doing great things here at the Lamplight Productions. And you can be a part of it for the low price of $0.00. Because all you got to do is subscribe. Ring the bell, ding dong, you can't go wrong. Or don't. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. Though I don't know how you can live with yourself.